Hey free-to-play gang, welcome back to another video. Today I want to show you guys how powerful Camille is, and I currently have her at R0, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have her at R0 right now. Now I mentioned before that her multipliers are insane, and I stay true to that as well. I've spoken to some of the endgame players, people from Eden for example, people from other servers, and a few of them that I've spoken to have come to a conclusion that her base attack is super low and that she's going to be really forgettable, or she's going to be an esper that people are just going to skip or just forget about in the days to come, which I do not agree with at all. Now this is not a jab at them, this is just me doing my own independent research and figuring out that she's actually pretty insane. So as you can see, the stats that I've given her, they are obviously not super far off endgame, but it is still pretty decent. So I have full crit rate on her, I have decent enough accuracy for this to work, I have some attack, and I have decent crit damage as well. So let's take a look at how I'm going to test her out over here. So I have Ethan for the defense break, I have Ashley for the rainbow bridge effect, which we will look at as well, because I did talk a little bit about Ashley comboing with Camille, because Camille have 2 AoE attacks, so she's going to scale really well with Ashley over here. Because whenever we crit, right, this rainbow bridge is actually going to give us extra DPS, which is up to 10% of the enemy's max HP. So if we use Camille to attack twice, that is instantly going to be 20% of the enemy's max HP gone just because of the rainbow bridge effect. And the reason why we're attacking twice is because we're assuming that Camille is going to be at R6. So we're kind of like testing out her R6 potential here again. So just to give you guys some recap, her R2 is what gives her extra damage on her second skill, which we will not have for this showcase. And her R6 just gives her another turn after using her third skill, so that she goes from her third skill straight to her second skill, and that is insane. So it doesn't matter that her base attack is low, her damage output is still going to be freaking high. Let's take a look. Alright, I almost forgot. I'm actually going to reduce the enemy's level to level 80, and the reason for that is because now their defense is about near 3000, right? So these will be more realistic numbers, and I think it's very important that we have realistic numbers in our calculation, or in our analysis at least. Okay, so we have the attack buff, we have the defense break. Let's take a look at our third skill and how much damage we can do. Oh, a bit of a lag, Rip. 105,000 damage, close to 106,000. So we're actually going to give a turn to her straight away, because we're going to assume that she's in R6 without her extra R2 that boosts her second skill, right? Let's take a look at how much damage we can do now. We have just a bunch of bleeds here, we have like just 3 bleeds over here, right? But there's a double bleeding stack here. So that is definitely going to reduce our damage a little bit, and as you can see, we only have sears on these 3 espers as well. We do not have sears on all of them. How much damage is this going to be? Holy shit, the freaking lag, oh my god. Okay, let's try this one more time. Our third skill this time around. Boom, 105k, okay? And we give ourselves another turn. And now it's our second skill. Please do not lag, please blue stacks, come on. Please blue stacks, come on, let's do this. 83,000 damage. 83,000 damage. So that was 188,000. 188, close to 100, okay, let's say 190k, okay? 190k. And that did not include Ashley's rainbow bridge damage as well. So we had 190k raw damage on enemy espers who have very realistic defenses. And on top of that, we also have Ashley in the mix. So let's actually test out what Ashley's true damage is over here. Okay, you don't care too much about defense break this time around. We just want to test out the true damage portion, which is 5,000, up to 5,200 damage. So if we AoE twice, that will be 10,000 damage onto each of these espers. So 10,000 times 5, right? Because there's 5 enemies, that'll be 50,000 damage on top of that, which means our damage is actually going to go all the way up to 240,000 damage. 240,000 damage just from one simple setup on Camille over here. Now let's compare her to the damage of Gaius, and there were a few of you guys who did not believe me at all that she's going to outshine Gaius, and I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to show you just how powerful she is. Take a look at the stats of my Gaius, right? He has almost 3,000 attack, he has plus 225 extra crit damage, which is not crazy right now, but these stats are still very, very freaking strong. So let's take a look at the difference in their DPS. Okay, so we have the defense break, we have the attack buff. Let's transform, and let's just see how much damage we can do. 180k AoE nuke, right? One single skill, 180k. And of course, we failed to crit this guy as well. So let's say we crit this guy, that is actually going to push our DPS up from 180k to maybe easily about 200k, I would think. And on top of that, we also had Ashley for one single tick of like, let's say up to 5,200 attack, right? That would total our DPS to 225,000 damage, which is lower than whatever that we have just witnessed with Camille, who did 240,000 damage. And yes, she did use 2 skills, but that is her gig, right? The whole point of her kit is to land double attacks, and that's why she scales super well with Ashley, and that is how her damage output is just so much better than Gaius right now. Now obviously that's not to say that Gaius is weaker, because Gaius does cover other stuff, right? He is very useful in many different scenarios, not just in terms of DPS, but he's also really good in like stripping buffs, stealing buffs, landing seer debuffs. He has a lot in his kit, and he's also really good against single target enemies, that of which Camille does not have. But I'm just trying to compare her in, let's say, the scenario of point wall, for example. I feel like Camille has a lot more potential than Gaius in terms of just point wall cleaving or knockout cleaving, for example, but that's not to say that you cannot use both of them together. So yeah, do take note that you can always use both of them together. They synergize so well. So yes, I do feel like it makes a lot of sense for you to invest into both of them, but Camille is an insane powerhouse. That's what I'm just trying to cover for today's video. Now, to address one more point that some of you guys made, which is, yeah, there is Jin Yu Yao in the mix, right? Like in point wall, in knockout, there's Jin Yu Yao everywhere, right? How are we going to deal with that? Because we need to rely on debuffs in order for Camille to work, and what I can say is there is a very straightforward and very simple solution to counter Jin Yu Yao right now. Now, I'm not going to show you how this team is going to work like in practice right now, but I'm going to explain why this team is going to work really well against Jin Yu Yao comps. Okay, I'm actually going to shift my espers around so that it's a little bit easier to understand. So we're going to start off with Clara. Let's say we are up against someone else in point wall. We're going to start with Clara. We're going to push out AP. Really basic understanding. But it's quite important that Clara is at R2 so that she grants your team with 2 turns of immunity. You need that 2 turns of immunity so that if you get counter-attacked by Everett, for example, he's not going to land a misrate up on you. Because there is one way that Camille can get completely countered. If you land a misrate up on her, then her second skill is like worthless. So you will need an R2 Clara. I'm not sure, but I don't think 1 turn of immunity is going to work, because I feel like you will lose the immunity before you get countered. So that is Clara's role. And next we have Tricky here. He's just going to strip all the immunity buffs that the enemies have. Let's say they start off with like the light set, right? And we are also going to deploy certain debuffs on the enemies, which is going to push Jin Yu Yao's AP. Now, it's very important that we push Jin Yu Yao's AP and we do not have the stun set, so that Jin Yu Yao can steal the turn and then return whatever debuffs that Tricky deployed, which is going to be the misrate up and the speed down, but hopefully it lands onto any of our wind type espers here. Hopefully it lands onto maybe Tricky himself, maybe it lands on Loyan, but hopefully not Camille, okay? So this is something that I have yet to consider. But if let's say the Jin Yu Yao still has not moved, we also have Loyan here. Now Loyan, he has her third skill that does diseased as well. So this is going to further push Jin Yu Yao's AP, and at this point it is almost guaranteed that Jin Yu Yao is going to move. She has already gained 60% AP. And that is also assuming that we do not crit. So your Tricky and your Loyan needs to have like very low crit rate so that we do not trigger the Rainbow Bridge that reduces the enemy Jin Yu Yao's AP. We want to make sure that she gains the AP so that she takes the turn, and afterwards that is all. Now don't forget that Loyan also reduces the enemy's max HP by 30%, so that's already 30% of the enemy's max HP done, and subsequently one more nuke from Ashley as well. We will then follow up with a double nuke from Camille. Now after this first round is done, and if we fail to kill, we still have stuns on her second skill, so if we still manage to land some stuns, that's gonna be great. Jin Yu Yao has already used her third skill, so she's not gonna return any of the stuns, and subsequently we still have Ashley for another round of stuns if that is necessary. So this is going to be the speed clip setup that I think is gonna work really well in the current meta, including Camille as well, who lands debuffs. So just because that an Esper lands debuffs doesn't mean that they are instantly countered by Jin Yu Yao, for example. That is not true at all. There are many ways that you can work around a current problem, and this is just one of those examples. But yeah, anyway, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave it down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Dislyte content. Now with that said, this has been Derry Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.